Hello, this is a follow-up webinar from the event we held yesterday in Melbourne on the 26th, covering the performance management journey. Okay, we're just going to cover some areas here, the first of which is going to be understanding business intelligence and what performance management is. We need to understand that in order for us to make choices. But also, when we are making choices, we need to recognise the type of information workers that you have in the business and that they all have different needs to address. And also, with performance management, unlike just pure business intelligence, we need to create new data and edit it. We need to have something going forward to forecast, not just something that's happened. So to get that also, it's cause and effect, so that we need to know why there's a variance in something, not just that there is a variance. We're going to look, first of all, now just at market offerings. I'm sure that many of you out there will know that there's lots of technology options on the market for these areas, and it really would be very difficult from your position to see the differences and understanding what would be appropriate for you. They can all see the same. But also, what are these business intelligence and CPM? What do they mean? What do they mean to me? So by the end of this, hopefully you would come out more enlightened on this and understanding more what you would need. But also, what we're going to address here is also the implementation costs of, there's a project associated with these, and really one of the big things you'd be looking at is about the cost of it, and knowing that it will deliver what you want. So we'll come to some of these points later on about what's going to be important to you for these. First of all, let's just look at what the problem is out there with a lot of systems, and that is that, especially with data, when you're looking at just say the general ledger, it's the financial consequence of every transaction that's happened in the business. But it's the effect of it, it's the dollar amount, it's the consequence. And we don't really see the cause because you're just looking at data which is quite summarized. We don't see the revenue, say, made up by customer we can't drill back to see, what was the cause of that. Was it some sort of product that was below a budget or what that was? And the reason for that is that there is data from different sources, so we need to get these into one place, because if we're needing to plan and use drivers in order to drive our budget, we need to have access to that level of data and then drive it into the general ledger. So without that, we can't do planning and proper business intelligence or budgeting and forecasting. So that's the first step. Now, also, just a trending technology in this area is a convergence of business intelligence and performance management. And you can see the two different areas here that they cover. But we actually see that we need them to be together in one place. In order to do performance management, we need to be able to plan and budget and forecast and then analyze and correct and take action. And we need business intelligence. You need to see the analysis of that in order to feed it back into the loop. A board is a product which is uniquely positioned in this area as having both seamlessly together. You can't really see where one starts and one ends. And we also need to understand that there are different types of information workers in the business. If we don't understand this, we're never going to get proper use of your system. And so, for instance, if we look at information workers at the bottom, they can have varying amounts of time that they have with an application, but they need this. They need the application to be like with no learning. It's got to be like being on the web. You really are being guided, and it's quite structured. They really don't want to have something that's that needs a manual or that needs to learn. Up here with the management, you see that they have little time. They don't have time to start playing with the application. They need it to be very clearly structured, but also answer and address quite complex questions. And over here we have workers who do actually have a lot of time to play in the application, and these guys, they actually need something that's quite unstructured. They don't really want the application to tell them what to do. So we've got to have each of those people satisfied, otherwise we're not going to get a successful solution. And so it's a bit like an application, like a photo editing software. We know Adobe Photoshop, where we can airbrush things, and that's a heavy application. But at the top here, Instagram is very much a guided, intuitive application, and that's really where we are heading in some of the workers, that we just want them to be able to follow an easy path and be guided and push a button without actually having to go into a procedure manual. So this brings us to Board and how this really is a game changer, especially for the mid-tier, because they often have a lot of data in the organisation which is not being leveraged, and it's often been out of reach for them because the top tier is very expensive and difficult to get success out of. And to start this, most people have Excel as a tool in the business for a lot of this. And my take on this is that even though it is such a painful tool for many finance professionals to use, the reason why it hasn't gone is because they can own the product. Even if it takes them 2 hours to find out what the fault is, at least they know they can get it, that the fate is in their hands. So when we move from Excel, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We want to keep that, because that's really important, that you can own the product. And this leads to as being the most forgotten cost when buying a technology solution, because ultimately, people focus on a sticker price and how long it takes to implement it. But once you actually have the solution, if it's not something that you can change and adapt easily and have workers being able to use it simply, it just falls into disuse. And in that case, that's the most wasteful use of dollars when putting in technology. So what Board does so effectively in this area is that when we implement, and this is how we can be quite clear on how how much investment is going to be, is that traditionally a project would require big upfront design sessions with documentation, and you'd need a lot of training and manuals and testing, and ultimately a lot of software documentation, because you need someone to go to page 10 and follow the next 3 steps or 10 steps. Whereas now in Board, we can put all that into like a button. In other words, we don't actually need documentation in that way at all, and the training is completely reduced. So all the time goes into straight build or value of the product. Now we've got 4 offerings in this area in Professional Advantage, each one covering quite a distinct area. But Board is the one we're focused on today, because we are really looking at unifying business intelligence and performance management with all the budgeting and forecasting needs in one. But when we did go out to market to actually find what was going to be the best solution for our customers in this area, we had a few criteria. The product had to be one that was going to be around in a few years' time. So it had to be in the list of Gartner's surveys right at the top, in all areas. And it had to have no programming or coding was key, because we wanted it to be easy to own and implement. And also, it needs to be a cost which just didn't put it out of the reach of a lot of your average mid-sized companies. And all these we've found that Board just was head and shoulders and way ahead of the competition, and that's why we chose it. And in fact, when we did our research, there were only 5 companies in the world which have full capabilities in both BI and performance management. But Board is the only one which does that within a single product. There's just one icon on your desktop and one place to go, so it's quite seamless. Okay, hopefully that was a good introduction. Please go on to the webinars 2 and 3 to get a proper full demo. Thank you very much.